lot higher anxiety about storms in general. We both grew up in Missouri, so kind of Midwestern weather patterns are not new to us. Like I can't sleep through storms in the same way that I used to be able to. We look at our trees differently, I would say. And I think like there's still a lot of community cleanup going on. And so for most people, I would say the damage is out of sight and out of mind. Like if you're not directly impacted by something that happens like this, it's very easy to forget that it happened. But when you are around places that still have ongoing recovery efforts, or you drive through and you see a tree that was like clearly down or, you know, still not cleaned up, like it just, there's some like residual kind of like, ugh, I don't know how you describe that feeling right there, but just a little bit of like the difficulty of kind of processing through an event that is still happening.
Yeah, I think this spring has been, like, it's just been strange, like coming up a year, like I psychologically want to get past Memorial Day in my head without, you know, damage. But yeah, she's right. I'm like, the trees are beautiful. I love them. But, you know, you're just more careful, and, you know, we've taken mitigation efforts. We've had some trimmed and everything, but there's still, like just a few weeks ago, there was a large branch that fell over here, and that kind of like brought up some emotions, at least a little bit, like, oh man. And so it's just a feeling of vulnerability during the storms. It's been so real so recently for us. And so definitely more difficult sleeping through storms. But yeah, just fully feeling vulnerability, I think, for me.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you split those things, but I do think that the interaction feels very different. I think from a community perspective, we felt incredibly supported. Our neighbors came together the day after the storm, and probably even 2 days after the storm, and all helped each other clean up. At least the majority of kind of what is common space between us. We had a lot of help getting just branches kind of to where things were accessible again. And I don't think that's unique to us. I think that happened all over. And we've continued to have our support system check in on us and, you know, provide whatever kind of support they can. People that are going through the same sort of renovation or went through the same sort of renovation are quick to share advice of, here's how we handled this element of it, or this is where we are in the process, and gosh, this part of it is really hard. And sometimes it's nice just to have that camaraderie, even if it's recognizing that something is hard. And then from a government perspective, I think that there were some things that the city government could have done differently. I think about it more from that perspective. I know that like this area was declared as a national disaster, I think, so there were like additional funds available to help recovery. But the initial like tree limb recovery kind of effort, I think, was helpful, but sort of only partially done. There's still a lot of tree debris that you can see in a lot of different areas of the city. And so I don't know what that looks like as it's continuing, but I think that there were some things there that were difficult to understand. And then from a permitting perspective, when you're rebuilding, I think the expectation is most of the time that your developer is, or your general contractor is pulling all of those permits. I really didn't know what I didn't know, and so I pulled the permits for our house. And that process is very very poorly documented of what you need and when you need it and how you need it. The office was very busy, and so while they were helpful when I can get a hold of them, it was still difficult to understand. And then there are just some like things that are weird about how governments work, and I understand like how a bureaucratic process works, and so it's not super surprising, but like there are situations where the Arkansas Electric Code is not the latest federal code standards, and so there was some confusion about what was or was not required. And so while we had a permit, we didn't pass our final inspection, and we just let the permit expire, because our house is standard to the federal code, not to the current Arkansas code, because the Arkansas code is behind. And we didn't want to make the necessary changes to go backwards in code standards when at some point Arkansas code standards will catch up. So there are some things like that that's like, I get it, but it is frustrating from a homeowner's perspective about navigating those things. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think the community was great, church was great, and I know the government. I think city government, it's the unprecedented event, right? So it's like we're not going to do a perfect job, right? And I think and you know, that is a good point though. On maybe moving forward, you know, how can our leaders best help those families who are making the decisions they might deal with, right? To like abide by the right guidelines and safety protocols and all that. So, but yeah.